I've been wanting to do this experiment for a long time, but I've never got around to it. But now I've got around to it mould, which you'll see at the end, I can give it a go. Thank you to one of my lovely members who sent me that mould as well. Now I've got different moulds here, and I'm going to be using those to test out what happens when you use wood dye in resin. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that wood dye is going to stick to the resin like we use paint or other things, because I think it's going to move off, but you know, spread off. But until I give it a go, who knows? So what I'm going to do to start with is this little owl and start painting on my wood stain like this. And yeah, as you can see, it's actually starting to separate straight away, and because we're trying to paint it on silicone. Now I've got all different colours here. I've got Italian rosewood, Jacobin darkwood, antique pine and deep mahogany that I'm going to play with. So what I'm going to do to this is to thicken it up a little bit first with something, and hopefully that will then allow that to stay on there and dry. And what I'm going to use for that is good old cornstarch. Now it is white, so it will probably change the colour slightly, but it shouldn't do it too bad. Now I don't want to put too much in. I could use mica powder, but I don't want to have the effect that you'll get with mica powder, which is the glistening, which is so unlike me, I know. So I'm going to give that a nice stir around. I want it so I can brush it on, and there's enough in there that will allow it to dry really easily. So as you can see, I'm using a tiny amount to the amount of wood stain that I've got in there. It doesn't seem to have affected the colour at all. Let's see if that's enough. Not quite. So I'm adding it as I need to, and then testing it, and then adding a little bit more if I need to add a little bit more. So that first coat has gone on quite well, and what I'm going to do now is let that dry before I put my next one on. I'm going to try and speed it up by putting it in my curing box. So that then isn't going to take overnight. It's only going to take an hour or so for me to do that. Now on this type of mould, I do find that they do cover a little bit better. So what I'm going to try and do on this one, brush on in places. I want to get like a wood coloured effect on this. Don't know how this is going to turn out. As I said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I just hadn't got round to it. Massive thank you to all my members and to the member who sent these moulds to me. You know who you are, and thank you so much. Like to become a member of my channel, the link for that is in the description below. It not only does it help me, but it also really is a great place to share your ideas, get some honest feedback, but in a very kind, supportive way. This mould looks to me like it's a holographic mould. I hadn't noticed that before, so that'll be interesting as well. And then I'm going to try it on this one, which actually is, they're both exactly the same, I believe. Oh, maybe they're not. No, they're not. I thought they were. And it's a Man of the Woods, or I'm not sure. It's probably got a special name. I'm not sure what that is. So I'm going to paint that in here like this. I'm going to do one like this, and the other one I'm going to add the wood stain to the resin and see how that affects it for these two. We can see which one's the best. I can't wait. Has anyone done this before? If you have, let me know what your sort of final finishes were like. Definitely adding that flower has enabled that to sit better. Now I'm going to use the antique pine and do the same thing with it to see if I can get a bit of contrast, because this is a very different colour. Look. Again, adding the flour to it, or cornstarch. I get told off calling it flour. We always call it corn flour in the UK, but apparently it is cornstarch. It says cornstarch on the pot as well. Make sure that's well mixed in. Now I'm going to drape that across as well. Give me brush a little wash out, and then we can leave those to dry, and then I can also do these ones. So these have dried now, but what I didn't consider was, by adding the flour, I've made it into a little paste. So what's happened is, as it's dried, it's lifted off of the silicone mould, which is a bit of a pain in the bum. I'm still going to go ahead and do it, and we'll see what happens. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to spray over these with some Seals and Protect to see if that will hold that into place. Now I want to do it from quite a distance away. Oh, look, knocked it out straight away by too hard a jet. And now I'm going to let that dry before I put my next lot on. So what I'm going to do now is paint on my deep mahogany on these two in the same sort of way. And this one is a lot thicker anyway. So I'm not going to mix this down or anything, because I don't want this effect to happen again. Like I said, I have no idea if this is going to work or not, but we will only find out by doing. And I love a good experiment. I'm going to gently paint this on so I don't try and dislodge all what has dried before. And the same for this one and this one. Spraying it with varnish has certainly stabilised it a little bit, but it's still quite fragile. I mixed in the antique pine wood dye into here, and it mixed really well. It did create quite a few bubbles, which I was surprised at, but that didn't matter. I poured it in slowly into my mold. I've got the two there where I didn't do any of the colouring first, and then I've got these three. I'm waiting for the bubbles to come up because I think, like I said, it did bring in some bubbles, but they seem to be releasing quite well. Now these two, if they don't look very good, there's things that we can do to them afterwards once they're all cured up that I think are going to make it look wonderful. And we can see that in a minute. I over poured this out quite a bit, so I had to scrape some off, hence the mess there. But these bubbles are popping lovely. I'll leave that for 5 more minutes. Then what I will do is go over it again with the long neck lighter. This just needs a little tiny top up, but I don't want to go to an over pour situation with it. That should do. And then we can come back and see how well it's worked. Well, these have all cured now, so I can't wait to take a look at them. That one's come out really well with the wood stain. I quite like that. It's given a really nice effect. This is the one where we put the stain on first. It's picked all that up really well. Very glossy indeed. So let's look at the owl. The owl's come out really well too. I like the way that the owl is got all those tones in it. I think I like that quite a lot. Placed on something, I think that would look excellent. Yeah, and the butterfly has come out well. I think that's quite pretty. Just adds another dimension to your resin work. And this is the round to it. Now, I did say I was going to show you a way of filling this in, and it couldn't be easier. All you need, a little bit of black paint, whatever, or any colour that you want. Pop that on there like that. A kitchen roll, kitchen paper, or a brush. We'll let that dry for a few minutes on that. And it actually says a round to it. And then once it's been sitting there for a few minutes, just lightly go over your item with a baby wipe or a piece of damp paper or whatever it is you want to use. And then you've got that full impression in there. And there you've got your own round to it. So now you'll always get round to it. I think that's been a success. I like that. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it for all your pieces, but I really like it. I especially do love the owl. That's come out really well. I hope you've enjoyed that experiment. I've really enjoyed doing that experiment. It's one I've been trying to get round to it for a long time. They've come out beautiful and glossy. Check out the video I've got coming up next. It's another experiment as well. I do love experimenting with resin. Boom that like button, hit that subscribe button, but most of all, enjoy your resin. Take care. Bye. So if you're looking to see what comes in my kit, you get this extra large mat, several pairs of nitrile gloves, you get pipettes, you get 3 stirrers, you get one of these little silicone brushes, which are great. On top of that, you get these, which you've seen me use lots of times. It's great for removing bubbles and doesn't damage any of your molds. You get some of these nice little small measuring cups, ideal for colours. You also get 2 of these smaller mixing cups and 2 of these larger mixing silicone jugs. I'm sorry if it keeps going out of stock, but keep an eye out. It does get put back into stock really quickly. Again, links in the description of this video.